Hey guys, welcome back. So as you're watching this video now, it is Christmas Eve, in case you're watching it the day that I actually upload it. But this is Christmas Eve and I wanted to film this video because mental health is something that is really close to my heart and I want to share more about this topic on my channel. A lot of you guys may know me from my foster care videos, and those are pretty much like the only kind of serious talk videos I do on my channel, but I would like to start doing more. And feel free in the comments to leave me suggestions of videos that you would like me to do in the future as well. But there's so many things that I feel like I want to touch on and talk with you guys about. So this video to start off with is going to be talking about anxiety and depression and my experience with these things personally. And I think it's really important this time of year, especially around Christmas time and the holidays and stuff like that. And as a person who has experienced extreme loneliness and loneliness around the holidays, like spending holidays alone and stuff like that, I think it's so important to talk about these things and bring up these issues. And I hope wherever you are on this Christmas, I hope you're with people you love and you feel loved. And I'm really happy that you're here to spend some time with me. This is something that's really serious and near and dear to my heart, and it's kind of hard to talk about, but it's for the greater good and I want to help people. So if you're here watching this video, I hope this video helps you in any kind of way. So my depression, I feel like kind of started with feeling just kind of this loneliness, and I feel like that's kind of what my depression is. I don't really think I suffer so much from depression right now, but I suffer more from anxiety symptoms. But my whole entire family has depressive symptoms, anxiety. I have family members who are unable to function without being medicated for their anxiety. So I have a long history of mental illness in my family. For the past couple of years and in meeting my current boyfriend, who I've been with for 5 years, my depression has really kind of subsided. I still get like times here and there that definitely I'm so down and I have bad thoughts in my head and things like that, but for the most part, my current problem, I would say, would be anxiety and having kind of like panic issues, which those are things I'm going to talk about in the second part of this video, in the second half of this video. The first half I want to talk, like kind of touch on depression a little bit, but I feel like from such an early age, I just kind of had this sense of loneliness and kind of feeling alone. And I would love to hear your guys' experiences as well, but I feel like that's kind of the biggest part of depression for me, is kind of just feeling like I'm just all by myself and I feel disconnected from everyone and everything, and then that kind of leads into me feeling like I'm disconnected from reality in a way because I'm just not in touch with people and with others. And also, I mean, I think if you've experienced depression, you kind of understand when you are depressed, you don't want to be around people. You don't want to let people see you in that state and you're just kind of irritable and things like that. So it kind of makes it worse. Depression is kind of this like downward spiral of things happening to make you more and more and more depressed, which that's something I'd like to talk about in a future video. But again, I kind of wanted to focus more on anxiety and stuff like that in this video because that is something that is a problem for me right now and something I feel like I could speak on a little better. But as far as Christmas and stuff goes, which again, this is like why I wanted to make this video, is because Christmas time has been a hard time for me in the past, because around this time it's easy to start thinking about your family. The loneliness and the disconnect you feel can just be kind of amplified at this time because you see people with their families and you know this is a time for people to be with your family, so you're going to be thinking about your family and stuff like that more. So this is a really hard time for people who are lonely, and if you know someone who's lonely, like say you have like neighbors or elderly people, I think this is a time you should really reach out to them. This is one of like the highest suicide times because people around the holidays just feel sad. And I'm no stranger to this. From the time I was 18 till the time I was 22, I pretty much didn't spend holidays with family. I was by myself, which kind of was like liberating in a way, but it was also really saddening. I've just historically have felt this sadness and loneliness around holiday time, like during these times, like in my early adulthood. While I was like freeing to be like, yeah, I don't have to be with family right now, it's still really lonely. And I think it's important to recognize that and reach out to people who may not necessarily have a whole lot of like social resources and stuff like that. Just let them know that you're there and that you're thinking of them and that they're not alone. Again, this is just a really hard time, I think, for a lot of people, whether you're prone to depression or not. You never know what people are going through. So I just think it's so important to reach out to people. And then I wanted to say just offhand, while I was a teenager, I was medicated for depression for a couple of times. And I think my depression was a lot worse when I was a teenager, and the medicine that they put me on like just didn't really work. And I felt like my problem, even though it comes from like family history and stuff like that, my problem wasn't going to be solved by medicine, and I really needed help working through things. And just being a teenager is hard, especially with things that I was going through where things were just kind of different and abnormal and atypical on top of being a teenager. So I was like very, very depressed looking back, and I think most of my depression was like from like, what is the purpose of life? Like, what is the point of all of this? And again, like not feeling like I have family, not feeling like I'm grounded in anything. I'm not kind of anchored to anything. I'm just out here kind of floating around in the world. And I even get like that sometimes now. This is probably like the one Christmas time where I've not really felt so bad. And that's one of my New Year's goals, is I just want to feel like I'm free. Like I can just let go of like the dead weight and the things from my past that I just hold on to. And that's gonna be hard for me, because even when I think I've let things go, I haven't. But that's probably my number one issue, is like there's things that I hold on to and things that are just hard for me to address and work through. And counseling would definitely help, but anytime I have depression that comes up, it's always because of like past events and things that I'm thinking about these events, and they're just making me think bad things about myself. And so to kind of just end the depression part of this video, things that I do to kind of help myself in case you are in kind of a rut, and this happens to me a lot. There's good times and there's bad times. Like there are times when I'm just so completely happy, and then there's times when I just feel really down and I can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people. But if you're one of those people who finds yourself kind of getting in these ruts for really long periods of time, you may be suffering from depression. You may want to go talk to a counselor. You may want to talk to a doctor. Just seek out some help for yourself. But things that I do try to do to help myself is I try to distract myself more than anything. I try to really catch what I'm thinking about. Think about what you're telling yourself and think about your thoughts, because that's the most important thing, because we don't realize that we're thinking things at certain times, but we are. So if there's times when I don't want to get up, I don't want to do things, I'm not motivated, I have to ignore that voice in my head that's telling me, well, doing this, this, and this is pointless. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason to get up. Don't even bother. Don't get yourself out of bed. Don't put makeup on. What's the point? I have to make myself do these things. Regardless of how I'm feeling, I have to get up and make myself do it, regardless of what my mind is telling me. And that's how you can kind of start to unwind your depression a little bit. It takes a lot. Depression is such a complicated and tricky mental illness. And I would love to talk on it more, because it's so hard, and I get it. It's such a difficult thing to unwind yourself out of, because depression has a way of just digging you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I've seen it with so many family members, I've seen it in myself, but you have to ignore your thoughts sometimes. You have to act in a way that goes against what your thoughts are telling you. Even though it sucks, you don't want to get up, you don't want to put clothes on, you don't want to put makeup on your face, you don't want to face the world, you have to. You have to just do it, close those thoughts down, think of something else. That's step number one. And then from there, it's kind of, you kind of have to just play by ear and figure it out yourself. Again, like you have to figure out what works for yourself. Go to counseling, get medicine, do what you have to do to function. So, okay, on to anxiety, which anxiety is my biggest problem, which is a hurdle that at multiple points in my life, I feel like I'm over it, but then come to find out I'm not. Like as I go a couple years, it comes up again. And like I said, I have a family history of anxiety. I'm not personally medicated for it. I was, which I'll get into here in a second. I was medicated for a couple months, but basically I have a lot of panic attacks and stuff like that in my family history. I myself have had panic attacks, and that's the worst part of anxiety, I think, because panic attacks seem to be kind of like the epitome of your anxiety. Like I would consider myself pretty much like an anxious person, but anxiety attacks are really weird. I had my first anxiety attack, my first panic attack, when I was 11 years old, and I was on my school bus on the way home. And I remember just sitting there, and I wasn't too far from home. I was maybe like 5 minutes from home. I was one of the last people to get off the bus, and I was just sitting there by myself and looking out the window, and I was just like, all of a sudden I'm like, I can't breathe. Like, I just felt this like heaviness, and then that just made me start to worry, and that just kind of, it just made me feel really fluttery. And that seems to be kind of like how my panic attacks go. Like, I just feel like I can't breathe. And so at this time, as my first panic attack, I ran up to my bus driver and I was just crying, and I was like, I can't breathe, I'm so scared. And she's just like, just go sit back down, go sit back down. She didn't know what to do. She's like, you're almost home. So she drops me off at home, and my mom's not there, and I'm just kind of hysterical. I don't know what's wrong with me. Of course, like, panic attacks, when you get them for the first time, I mean, it's scary. I mean, anytime you get them, it's so scary. But finally my mom got home, and she herself suffers from panic attacks and stuff like that. And she told me, I don't know if this works, but she told me at this time to drink a Mountain Dew. So she gave me Mountain Dew. She said caffeine is supposed to help with your anxiety, which I don't know if that's even true. I doubt that's true, because caffeine gets you like energized and stuff like that. But she gave me Mountain Dew, and her telling me like, hey, this is supposed to help you, made me feel better. And like the fact that my mom was finally home, and like someone could kind of just make me feel like I wasn't going crazy, just made me feel more calm and relaxed. And so that was my very first panic attack. I got through it. So I didn't really have much experience with panic attacks after that until I was 20 years old. I was working at a job. I was waitressing at an Olive Garden, and I had recently got in kind of like a really serious relationship. It was like my very first like serious adult relationship. I was also in this modeling school in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was like on my way to becoming like a model, like being signed with them and stuff like that. So at this time, I just started noticing that like I would come to work and I would just start to freak out. Like, I would get really disoriented. That was like my panic attacks at this time. Like, I would just get so disoriented and just be like, I can't do this. I just can't function. A lot was going on at this time, but I kept losing a lot of weight and just having like just this anxiety, like just flutters all the time. And I told my doctor at one point, I had gone to the doctors and told her I was having like anxiety issues. And she was like, you know, just try to work on it. And then I came back a few months later and I was like 20-30 pounds lighter, and I was telling her like, I am having an issue. Like, I cannot go to work. I can't function. I'm having a really hard time with panic attacks and stuff. And so she prescribed me Klonopin, which Klonopin and Xanax are kind of, and Valium, and a couple other things. They're basically just like downers. They, you know, calm you down. And so I was supposed to take 3 of those a day to help keep me from having panic attacks and stuff like that, which once I started taking those, and I took them for like 3 months or something like that, I pretty much can't remember anything that happened. And that's the thing with kind of these types of medicines. You tend to forget a lot of things. You're just very kind of mind numb. And still, I felt like the medicine wasn't helping solve the problem for me. It was just kind of like masking the problem. So it ended up happening when I was 20 at this time. I just kind of was getting sick and fed up with the situation. I was getting fed up with my boyfriend at the time and stuff like that. I was fed up with my job. I was fed up with like this modeling agency I was working with, which that's like a whole nother story time in itself. I'll probably make a video on that sometime, like my modeling, my extremely short and mediocre modeling career in Cincinnati, Ohio, and kind of like what went wrong with that. But it's pretty interesting, I think. But yeah, I basically left the situation because I was just, I felt so lost at the time. And I think a lot of people feel that at that age, you know, when you're trying to figure out what you're gonna do. And I had a feeling like, hey, my modeling career is gonna be like taking off. I'm not gonna have to work at this shitty job anymore. And what my dream was to be able to like model and pay my way through college and stuff like that, and be able to like afford a place to live and stuff through modeling. Like, I wasn't trying to be like this big like supermodel, but to me, this modeling situation, I had worked for like 6 months to get through the school, and then I was finally graduating. And so that's when like my panic attacks started happening, was when I was about to graduate and like get signed to this modeling agency. And I had like so much pressure on me to like lose a lot of weight and be thin, and I just felt a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of confusion. It was just kind of like a whirlwind of things happening all at once. And I think that really contributed to a lot of my panic attacks, and just still having like so much unfinished business with like my past and things that I've not dealt with. And even now I'm 27 and there's still things that I just don't really know how to face, I guess, or I don't know that are necessarily like there. I can feel them like bubbling up, but there's things from my past that like creep up and I need to deal with, and they cause these kind of adverse problems. And also things that I tell myself in my head. I've not been one to have like the highest self-esteem, like highest self-regard for myself, and that's caused a lot of problems as well, as far as like things I will tell myself, and that's a huge component of anxiety. So as of right now, I'm 27 and I'm about to graduate from college with a degree in psychology. So again, I'm at a point in my life where I just feel so much pressure, and I feel so just kind of like I have so much riding on this, and I have, you know, if this doesn't work out, what am I gonna do? It's like everything, my whole entire life is kind of riding on this moment in time in my life. So I just feel like it's all gonna come crumbling down, like something terrible, something catastrophic is gonna happen. So I've been having kind of a lot of panic issues. And also what's not really helping is I'm taking classes where we're talking about anxiety and we're talking about panic attacks, and that makes me feel extremely anxious. And if you're the same way, like let me know. But if people are talking about panic attacks and like talking about anxiety and stuff like that, and like talking about your heart racing and kind of stuff like that, it makes me feel a little bit more anxious. Now when I'm learning about depression and things like that, and kind of like a psychology, like learning about depression from like a psychology science standpoint makes me feel a lot better, which is a big reason why I wanted to get in psychology. But learning about anxiety makes me so anxious, and it really sucks. So one problem that I've really been having, which is kind of new for me, is riding on the bus. So at our school, we have to park in a parking lot that's kind of like off campus if you live off campus, and then you have to take a little like charter bus to your building. And for the past 2 years, I've been fine riding it. I'd get on it every morning, get on it every afternoon to go back to my car. And then my senior year starts and I get on the bus and I just feel claustrophobic. It's even like hard to talk about, but I get on there, and when the door shuts, it makes me feel like I have to run, like I have got to get out of here. And it's hard to explain like to my boyfriend and stuff, who is just kind of like, he's never, I mean, he has experienced anxiety and panic and stuff like that, but he, you know, he's on the other side of it. So he's just like, hey, stop thinking like that. Stop doing that. That's irrational. Like, stop freaking out on the bus. But to me, I'm just like annoyed with that, because I'm like, well, if I could just stop thinking about it, I would. I guess like my feeling with like being claustrophobic on the bus is just kind of like this anxiety about being embarrassed. Like, I need them to stop. I need him to stop the bus right now and let me off this bus. That's like my thought that's going in my head. Like, what if I need to tell him to stop and let me off? And feeling like so embarrassed that people are gonna think I'm crazy and all this stuff. So I pretty much just like quit riding the bus, and I have my boyfriend drop me off at the building that I need to go into, which is bad. That's like anxiety #1, which is what we've learned in our counseling classes and our psychology classes and stuff. Like, you don't avoid the stuff that gives you anxiety, because that's only gonna make it worse for you. If you have anxiety, you have to face the things that give you anxiety. Otherwise, you're gonna create more anxiety for yourself, or you just create this little like bubble that you can't get out of because you're so scared of everything around you. You kind of just like close yourself in because there's so many things that you avoid. And this is called negative reinforcement. You're negatively reinforcing your anxiety because you're avoiding it, because avoidance gives you relief. But avoidance doesn't cure the problem, it only makes it worse, which is the shitty part. Again, anxiety is one of those things, just like depression, that is so hard to get out of because you dig yourself down into it. And I'm still going through that right now. So I know that I need to get on the bus. I know that. And I've even tried, like, I will get on the bus after class is over, but if it's time to go to class and we're like in a hurry and stuff like that, I just can't handle it. I can't handle it. I can't handle when like we stop at different places and a lot of people will get on the bus and it starts to get really crowded and full. Oh my God, it gives me the worst anxiety. It's so irrational. Like, anxiety is irrational, and it's so much about what you're telling yourself in your head. And everyone tells me that, like when I'm saying I'm having a panic attack, like my boyfriend's like, you're telling yourself things. You're expecting a physiological response, which is your physical responses. Your anxiety is like, yep, you're gonna get fluttery. Yeah, you're getting panicked, and it's provoking you in a way. Like, your own brain is provoking your anxiety because it's expecting it. But what I have been doing to combat my anxiety, okay, so I also have a huge fear and anxiety, which is weird because I do YouTube, but I have a huge fear of speaking in front of people. Like, doing presentations and stuff are so hard for me to do at school, you guys. You have no idea, like, the anxiety I get over it. But it's one of those things, like, I have to do. The bus, I don't have to necessarily get on, so I can just let my boyfriend drop me off, and it kind of just saves me like the headache and the panic that starts my day off. I'm just like, I don't want to start my day feeling like scared for my life and everything, so just drop me off. But public speaking and stuff like that is something that I want to do, and that's why I do YouTube. Like, starting my YouTube channel was a big part of that was because I have so much anxiety, and I am a generally very anxious person. I kind of think the worst of things, and I definitely have a hard time speaking in front of people and feeling so self-conscious, and I will get so shaky. And like, that's the thing, when I'm speaking in front of people, I know, like, my brain's like, yep, you're nervous, you're talking shaky, people can tell you're nervous. Like, I'm basically like provoking myself, I'm poking fun at myself, I'm making myself feel worse about the situation. So I had a big presentation I had to do at the end of the semester, and I had just thought about it the whole entire semester. It would keep me up at night sometimes thinking about this presentation. But I knew, like, okay, so even sitting there, like, this happens to me every time before I do a presentation, even if it's in a group, like a group presentation where I have to present like one slide, I get like this, where when it's time for us to go up and present, that's the worst part, like getting up from your seat and like walking up to present. I'm thinking of all the ways I can run out of the room and like give myself any excuse to like just run. But that's my anxiety, and I'm like, I can't run because that's gonna make it worse for me. That's gonna let my fear win. It's gonna make me want to do that every single time that I have a presentation. I can't just run every time I'm scared, every time I have to speak in front of people, which speaking in front of people is like the dumbest thing to be afraid of. But it actually turns out that most people are actually more afraid to speak in front of people than dying, which is interesting. I learned that in college. Like, so many people are so afraid to speak in front of people, and that's like the #1 fear that everyone has, speaking in front of people. But to me, it almost feels like debilitating to have to speak in front of people, but I make myself do it. I for sure make myself do it because A, it's a grade, I can't just not do it, and B, because I don't want to let my anxiety win. Now, there have been like some emergency situations, and I will say, like, if you're in an emergency, I would try taking a Benadryl. For me personally, like, taking like Klonopins and Valiums and Xanax and stuff like that just wasn't like the right route. And I feel like if you are taking these medicines, if you are taking this medication, you really should be working with a therapist to work through the actual root of your anxiety. Because, like, I have a family member who can't even drive anywhere because they're so afraid of having panic attacks in the car while they're driving. And that's no way to live. You can't live like that. You can't let fear keep you like cooped up in a little, you know, bubble. So that's like one tip I have for you guys. If you're in like a really dire situation, you have really nothing else, try taking a Benadryl. I've had to do this on several occasions, and while it's not like the potency of a Klonopin or a Xanax, it will kind of like depress your system a little bit to where you're not like on a level 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, give yourself some kind of depressant, which is what a Benadryl is. And also, just really try to recognize the things that you tell yourself. If you have anxiety and you have problems with anxiety, just try to think about what you're thinking. That's the #1 thing, because it's all in your head. It's all irrational. Like, my fear of riding the bus, my fear of talking in front of people, these types of fears are just irrational, and they all happen because your mind is telling yourself something. So what they always try to tell you to do, first, you know, you need to identify your thoughts and things like that, but you also need to kind of like, if you're experiencing like panic and stuff, you need to focus on your breathing. And while it seems so scary, and it definitely is like this for me, it's hard for me to be telling people how to work through a panic attack when it's hard for me even, but you have to tell yourself you will be okay. You feel like you're gonna die, but you're not going to die. Your heart is still gonna beat. Like, I was having a really bad panic attack like a month ago, and it was on the weekend on a Friday night, and I just was feeling so like stressed out and panicked and just kind of like disoriented and things like that. And it's just important to just get your mind grounded and just focused on something. Get like a focal point in your mind that you can focus on, and know that it's not, you're not dying. Like, I legit like sometimes think I'm gonna give myself a heart attack from one of my panic attacks because my heart will be beating so fast, and I feel like I'm just giving my heart such a strain. But you will make it through your panic attack. I promise you, you're not dying. You're not alone. You're not crazy. So many people go through this. So many people have anxiety. Like, people you probably meet on a day-to-day basis suffer from anxiety and are so scared of so many things. They just kind of hide it. Like, that's another problem I have. I just kind of look around and I'm like, no one else is scared of the bus. Like, no one else is scared of speaking in front of people. I don't get why everyone's so like calm and collected, and I'm over here like so crazy. You're not crazy, and you're not alone, and I just want to let you know that from personal experience. And it's such a relief, because I was even reading this in my counseling book or one of my psychology books, like talking about panic attacks and stuff like that. Just, you think you're dying, but you're not dying. So just remember that, like, your heart's gonna be beating like crazy. You're gonna feel like suffocated. You can't breathe. These are so scary, but it's brief. It's just the absolute most horrifying feeling in the world. If you've never suffered from panic attacks, it's torture. But I hope like this will help you. Like I said, if you don't suffer from panic attacks, and maybe you have like a loved one that does suffer from panic attacks, this will maybe make you a little bit more like insightful of what kind of is happening with these people. Because I know for my boyfriend, like, it's really hard for him. He really tries to like help me and help me rationalize the situation, but sometimes it just really gets to my nerves. Like, him just being like, just stop doing that. It takes patience, it takes practice, it takes willpower. It really takes a lot of strength, but I know you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it for sure. So I think I'm gonna leave it off at this, you guys. I know this video is probably super long. As usual, when I get to talking, it just goes and goes and goes. But if you are watching this on Christmas somewhere out there, I really hope that you're around people who love you, and I hope you feel loved, and I hope you know that I really care, and I hope you know that you're not alone out there, and there's so many people who want to help and want to make you feel good and feel connected and feel loved. So that's it, you guys. This concludes my 10 days of Christmas. I think I only did 9 videos, but I'm pretty sure no one's gonna be watching videos on Christmas Day. So here's the one for Christmas Eve. I hope wherever you guys are, you're having an amazing Christmas, holiday, or if you don't even celebrate, I just hope you're safe and happy out there wherever you are. Again, let me know any topics you would like me to discuss further. I would definitely love to make more videos like this. I just have so many things that I like need to film, because I'm just such like a random channel. Like, I have so many random like things going on that it's hard for me to get everything out there that I want to get out there. But I really hope this video finds you guys and can help you in any way possible. I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!